The kitchen had always been my sanctuary, the one place where I could control the chaos of life through the precision of measurements and the alchemy of heat. But tonight, standing in the industrial kitchen of the Castellano Grand Hotel, preparing canapés for a gala I was organizing, rather than cooking for my own restaurant, that sanctuary felt more like a prison of my own making. My hands moved automatically, piping delicate rosettes of truffle cream onto crisp pastry shells, but my mind was elsewhere. 3 years. It had been 3 years since Marcus destroyed everything I'd built. 3 years since I'd walked into La Maison Rouge, my restaurant, my dream, my entire life's work, to find the locks changed and a legal notice taped to the door. Marcus had stolen my recipes, my concept, my investor contacts, and opened his own establishment across town. By the time my lawyers finished explaining how thoroughly he'd manipulated the contracts I'd signed when we were engaged, I had nothing left but debt and a reputation in tatters. "Miss Sullivan?" A voice interrupted my bitter reverie. I looked up to find one of Theo Castellano's security team standing in the doorway, his presence somehow both deferential and commanding. "Mr. Castellano requests your presence in his office before the gala begins." My stomach tightened. In the 6 months I'd worked for Castellano Events, I'd met Theodore Castellano exactly 3 times, and each encounter had left me unsettled in ways I couldn't articulate. He was younger than I'd expected for someone who controlled half of Chicago's luxury hospitality industry. Mid-30s, with dark hair that always looked like he'd been running his fingers through it, and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail about a person in seconds. There was something dangerous about him, something that made the small hairs on the back of my neck stand up whenever he looked at me, which was often and intensely. "I'm in the middle of..." I gestured at the 100 remaining canapés. "Now, Miss Sullivan." The security guard's tone left no room for argument. I wiped my hands on my apron, checked my reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator, auburn hair escaping its professional bun, a smudge of truffle cream on my cheek, and followed him through the hotel's private corridors. We took an elevator that required a keycard to a floor I'd never visited, emerging into a hallway lined with what looked like original Renaissance paintings. Theo's office was more like a penthouse apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the Chicago skyline at dusk. He stood at those windows, his back to me, wearing a tuxedo that had clearly been tailored to emphasize his broad shoulders and lean frame. When he turned, his expression was unreadable. "Tessa." My name and his voice always did something strange to my pulse. "Thank you for coming." Did I have a choice? The words came out sharper than I'd intended, born from years of being manipulated by men who smiled while they destroyed me. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or approval. "You always have a choice. That's why I wanted to speak with you before tonight's event." He moved to a bar cart and poured 2 glasses of wine without asking if I wanted one. "There's someone attending tonight who I suspect will be unpleasant for you." My mouth went dry. "Who?" "Marcus Whitmore." Theo handed me a glass, his fingers brushing mine in a way that felt deliberate. "He's attending as the guest of Vincent Calabrese, who's considering a partnership with Marcus's restaurant group." The wine sloshed dangerously close to the rim of my glass. Vincent Calabrese. Even I knew that name. Old money, older grudges, and rumored connections to organized crime that no one discussed openly. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I believe in being prepared." Theo's gaze never left my face. "And because I want you to know that if Marcus causes any problems tonight, I will handle it. Personally." There was something in the way he said "personally" that made it sound like a threat. Not to me. For me. "Mr. Castellano, I appreciate the warning, but I can handle Marcus. I've been handling him for 3 years. By hiding in my kitchen instead of running your own restaurant?" He said it gently, but the words still landed like a slap. "I know what he did to you, Tessa. I know he stole your recipes, your investors, your reputation. I know he left you with nothing but debt and a non-compete clause that kept you out of the industry for 2 years. Heat flooded my face, embarrassment mixed with anger. Then you know I don't need your pity. I'm not offering pity. He moved closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtly spiced. I'm offering protection. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. Why do you care what happens to me? I organize your events. I'm barely on your radar. You're wrong about that. His voice dropped lower, intimate in a way that made my skin prickle with awareness. You've been very much on my radar since the day I hired you. Why do you think I insisted on you specifically for this position? My heart hammered against my ribs. The HR director said I was the most qualified candidate. The HR director says what I tell her to say. He reached out slowly, giving me time to step back, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His touch was surprisingly gentle, at odds with the intensity in his eyes. I've been watching you for a long time, Tessa. Long before you ever applied to work here. I should have been frightened. Every instinct should have been screaming at me to run. Instead, I found myself leaning into his touch, drawn by something I couldn't name. That's creepy? Inappropriate? A slight smile curved his lips. Probably both, but I make no apologies for protecting what's mine. I'm not yours. But even as I said it, my voice lacked conviction. Not yet. He withdrew his hand, stepping back to give me space. Tonight, Marcus will try to humiliate you. He knows you work here, and he can't resist the opportunity to gloat. When that happens, let me handle it. Trust me. I don't know you well enough to trust you. Then consider it a professional courtesy. You're my employee, and I protect what belongs to me. There was that possessive edge again, the suggestion of something deeper and more dangerous than a simple employer-employee relationship. Go back to your kitchen, Tessa. Finish preparing for tonight. And whatever happens during the gala, remember that you're under my protection now. I wanted to argue, to tell him I didn't need anyone's protection, that I'd survived the destruction of my dreams, and could certainly survive an uncomfortable encounter with my ex-fiancé. But something in his expression stopped me. A certainty that made me think he knew things about tonight that I didn't. Why do I feel like there's more you're not telling me? I asked quietly. Because there always is. He moved back to the windows, dismissing me without words. Enjoy the gala, Miss Sullivan. I left his office with more questions than answers, my skin still tingling where he'd touched me. The elevator ride back to the kitchen felt longer than it should have, giving me too much time to analyze the conversation, to wonder why Theodore Castellano, a man who commanded an empire, would concern himself with the wounded pride of a fallen chef. Back in the kitchen, my sous chef Jeremy looked up with relief. Thank God. I was about to send out a search party. What did Castellano want? To warn me that Marcus will be at the gala tonight. I tied my apron back on and returned to the canapes, needing the familiar ritual to steady my shaking hands. You're Marcus? The one who... That's the one. I focused on piping perfect rosettes, letting muscle memory take over. Apparently, he's partnering with some Calabrese person. Jeremy's face went pale. Vincent Calabrese? Tessa, that's not good. Why does everyone keep saying that name like it's a death sentence? He glanced around the kitchen as if checking for eavesdroppers, then lowered his voice. Because Vincent Calabrese is bad news. Old school Chicago family, if you know what I mean. The kind of people who make problems disappear. Permanently. A chill ran down my spine. And Marcus is partnering with him? Either Marcus is an idiot, or he's more dangerous than you thought. Jeremy resumed his work on the salmon tartare. Be careful tonight, okay? Stay in the kitchen. Stay out of sight. But I'd never been good at hiding. The gala began at 8, and within an hour the ballroom was filled with Chicago's elite. Old money, new money, and the kind of people who transcended such classifications entirely. I moved through the crowd with a clipboard, ensuring the catering staff maintained their precise timing, that the wine flowed freely, that every detail of the event reflected perfectly on Castellano events, and by extension, on Theo himself. I saw him across the room, surrounded by men in expensive suits, and our eyes met for a moment. He gave me an almost imperceptible nod, a reminder of his earlier promise. Then his attention returned to his conversation, and I continued my rounds. I didn't see Marcus until it was too late to avoid him. Well, well. His voice made my skin crawl. If it isn't my former protégé, reduced to party planning, how the mighty have fallen. I turned slowly, giving myself time to school my expression into something neutral. Marcus looked exactly as I remembered, classically handsome in that prep school way, blonde hair perfectly styled, wearing his success like a second skin. The woman on his arm was young, beautiful, and wearing a diamond that could probably pay my rent for a year. His new fiancé, I assumed. Marcus. I kept my voice professional, distant. I didn't realize you'd expanded your thievery to include Calabresi's money. Congratulations. His smile sharpened. Still bitter, I see. I thought you'd have gotten over it by now. After all, it's been what? 3 years? Time to move on, Tessa. I have moved on. I started to walk away, but his next words stopped me cold. Have you? Because from where I'm standing, you're still playing with food, just in someone else's kitchen instead of your own. He moved closer, his voice dropping to a mock whisper loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Tell me, how much did you have to degrade yourself to get this job? Or did Castellano just take pity on the poor chef whose boyfriend stole everything? Heat flooded my face. Around us, conversations faltered as people turned to watch the drama unfold. I saw his new fiancé's smug smile, saw the vindication in Marcus's eyes, and felt 3 years of rage and humiliation rising in my throat like bile. Mr. Whitmore. Theo's voice cut through the moment like a blade, smooth and deadly. I believe you're making my event planner uncomfortable. That displeases me. Marcus turned, his confidence faltering slightly at Theo's sudden appearance. Mr. Castellano, I was just harassing my employee. Theo moved to stand beside me, his hand settling on the small of my back with a possessiveness that sent shockwaves through my system. At my event, in my hotel, using information you somehow acquired about Miss Sullivan's employment here. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm curious how you came by that information, given that we don't publicize our staff roster. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Marcus's face. Vincent mentioned... Yes, Vincent. Theo's hand moved slightly, pulling me closer against his side. Your new partner. Tell me, does he know about your history with Miss Sullivan? Does he know that you built your entire restaurant empire on stolen recipes and intellectual property theft? The color drained from Marcus's face. That's a serious accusation. It's a documented fact. Theo's tone remained pleasant, conversational, even as he systematically dismantled Marcus's composure. I have the contracts, the court filings, the testimony from your former investors who you defrauded. I've done my research, Mr. Whitmore. The question is, has Vincent Calabresi done his? Marcus's jaw clenched. Vincent knows everything he needs to know about our business arrangement. Does he? Theo tilted his head slightly, like a predator considering its prey. Then he knows you're currently being sued by 3 different former business partners. He knows you've been operating at a loss for the past 18 months. He knows you're desperate for new capital because your restaurants are hemorrhaging money. He paused. He knows you're using him. Around us, the crowd had grown quiet, everyone straining to hear the conversation. Marcus's face had gone from pale to red, rage and humiliation warring in his expression. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about." Theo's hand tightened on my back, a gesture of possession that should have offended me, but instead made me feel safe, protected. "And now you're going to leave my gala, leave my hotel, and never speak to Miss Sullivan again. Are we clear?" For a moment, I thought Marcus might actually swing at Theo. His hands clenched into fists, his face contorted with fury. But then a new voice joined the conversation. "Is there a problem here?" Vincent Calabrese materialized beside Marcus, and I understood immediately why his name inspired fear. He was older than I'd expected, maybe 60, with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. Everything about him spoke of old power, old money, old violence carefully hidden beneath a veneer of civilization. "No problem at all," Theo said smoothly. "I was just explaining to Mr. Whitmore that his behavior toward my employee was unacceptable. He was just leaving." Vincent's gaze moved between Theo and Marcus, assessing. Then he smiled, and it was somehow more frightening than his neutral expression. "Marcus, perhaps we should continue our discussion elsewhere. It seems we have much to talk about regarding your business practices." The threat in those words was clear to everyone. Marcus's face went ashen. "Vincent, I can explain." "I'm sure you can." Vincent's hand landed on Marcus's shoulder, and I saw Marcus flinch slightly. "Somewhere more private, shall we?" It wasn't a question. Marcus shot me one last look, pure hatred, before allowing Vincent to guide him away. His abandoned fiancée stood frozen for a moment before hurrying after them, her heels clicking frantically on the marble floor. The crowd's attention remained fixed on us, whispers already spreading through the ballroom. Theo's hand hadn't moved from my back, and now he turned me toward him, his free hand coming up to cup my face with surprising gentleness. "Let them see what he lost," he murmured, and then he kissed me. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was possessive, claiming, designed to make a statement to everyone watching. His mouth moved against mine with a confidence that suggested he'd been thinking about this for a long time. And God help me. I kissed him back. My hands found his lapels, pulling him closer, even as my rational mind screamed that this was wrong, that he was my boss, that we were in public, that I barely knew him. But none of that mattered as much as the taste of him, the feel of his hand in my hair, the way he kissed me like I was something precious and desired and worth protecting. When he finally pulled back, his thumb brushed across my lower lip. "Tomorrow, we talk," he said quietly, for my ears only. "Tonight, let Marcus see exactly what he threw away." I nodded, speechless, as he turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the center of the ballroom with several hundred pairs of eyes on me and my lips still tingling from his kiss. Jeremy appeared at my elbow moments later, his expression caught between shock and something like admiration. "Okay. So when you said Castellano wanted to talk to you, you left out some pretty important details." I had no idea. I touched my lips, still unable to process what had just happened. That wasn't planned. Bullshit. But Jeremy was grinning. "That man has wanted you since the day you walked into this hotel. Everyone with eyes could see it. Everyone except me, apparently. I forced myself to focus on the gala, on my job, on anything other than the fact that Theodore Castellano had just kissed me in front of Chicago's elite. We need to start the dinner service. But as I returned to my duties, I couldn't shake the feeling that tonight had changed something fundamental. The way Theo had defended me, the way he'd kissed me, the way he'd seemed to know things about Marcus that he shouldn't have been able to know. It all pointed to something larger, something more dangerous than a simple workplace attraction. and when I glanced back at the spot where Marcus and Vincent had been standing, I saw Theo watching me from across the room, his expression intense and unreadable. Tomorrow, we would talk, but tonight, I had the distinct feeling that I'd just become a piece in a game I didn't understand, played by men who wielded power like weapons and protected what they claimed with ruthless efficiency. The question was, did I want to be claimed? I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt Theo's lips on mine, tasted the expensive wine on his tongue, remembered the way his hand had felt possessive and protective on my back. And beneath that memory, darker thoughts circled. Marcus's face twisted with rage, Vincent Calabresi's cold assessment, the way Theo had known things about Marcus's business that shouldn't have been public knowledge. By 6 a.m., I'd given up on sleep entirely and was in my apartment's tiny kitchen, stress-baking croissants from scratch. The repetitive motion of folding butter into dough usually calmed me, but today my hands shook enough that the layers came out uneven. My phone sat on the counter, silent. Part of me expected Theo to call, to explain what the hell had happened last night. The other part hoped he'd forget the whole thing, let me slip back into the comfortable obscurity of being just another employee. The knock on my door at 7:30 made me jump, scattering flour across the counter. Through the peephole, I saw Theo's security guard from yesterday, the one who'd summoned me to Theo's office. My stomach dropped. "Miss Sullivan," he nodded politely when I opened the door. "Mr. Castellano requests your presence for breakfast. The car is waiting downstairs." "I'm not dressed for..." I gestured at my flour-covered pajamas. "You have 15 minutes. It wasn't a suggestion. 20 minutes later, I emerged from my bedroom in the most professional outfit I owned. A simple navy dress and heels that pinched. The guard didn't comment on my tardiness, just escorted me to a black SUV with tinted windows that screamed organized crime, so loudly I almost refused to get in. We didn't go to the hotel. Instead, the SUV wound through Chicago's streets to a neighborhood I'd never visited, stopping in front of what looked like a converted warehouse. The guard opened my door and led me through a heavy steel entrance into a space that took my breath away. The warehouse had been transformed into a stunning loft apartment. Exposed brick walls, soaring ceilings, industrial fixtures mixed with expensive furniture. Floor-to-ceiling windows flooded the space with morning light. And in the open kitchen, because of course it had a kitchen that would make any chef weep with envy, Theo stood in jeans and a white t-shirt, making what smelled like fresh pasta. He looked up when I entered, his expression softening in a way I'd never seen before. "You came." Did I have a choice? I echoed my words from yesterday, but this time without the sharp edge. "There's always a choice, Tessa." He wiped his hands on a towel and moved toward me. "Coffee?" "Answers." I stayed by the door, needing the distance. "You said we'd talk today, so let's talk. Starting with why you kissed me in front of half of Chicago's elite last night." "Multiple reasons." He poured 2 cups of coffee with the ease of someone comfortable in his own space. "The immediate reason was to send a message to Marcus and Vincent. The deeper reason is that I've wanted to kiss you for 6 months, and last night provided an excuse I couldn't resist." The casual honesty threw me. "You can't just... We work together. There are rules. I own the company. I make the rules." He held out a cup. "Cream, 2 sugars. The way you like it." I took the coffee automatically, then froze. "How do you know how I take my coffee?" "The same way I know you bake when you're stressed, that you call your sister every Sunday at 3 p.m., that you haven't been on a date since Marcus, and that you have a scar on your left shoulder from the car accident that killed your parents when you were 16. His gaze never wavered. "I told you, Tessa. I've been watching you for a long time." Ice water flooded my veins. "That's not romantic. That's stalking. It's protection." He moved back to the stove, giving me space. 6 months ago, One of Marcus's former investors came to me with information about what Marcus had done to you. How he'd stolen your recipes, manipulated the contracts, destroyed your reputation. This investor felt guilty for believing Marcus's lies, and he wanted to make amends. My hands tightened around the coffee cup. What does that have to do with you? I looked into the situation. What I found made me angry. He stirred the pasta water, his movements controlled but tense. Marcus didn't just steal your recipes. He stole your entire identity as a chef. The food he serves in his restaurants, it's your food. The signature dishes everyone praises, you created them. He's built an empire on your talent while you hide in event planning. I'm aware of that. The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. I was there, remember? I lived through having everything stolen. But you don't know why. Theo turned to face me fully. Marcus didn't target you randomly. He was hired to do it. The world seemed to tilt. What? 6 years ago, your parents owned 3 properties in what's now one of Chicago's most valuable development zones. When they died in that car accident, those properties should have gone to you and your sister. Instead, through a series of legal manipulations, they ended up owned by a shell corporation. He paused, watching my face. That shell corporation was controlled by Marcus's father, Edward Whitmore. I had to sit down. The nearest chair caught me as my knees gave out. You're saying my parents' accident wasn't an accident. Theo's voice was gentle but firm. I have proof, Tessa. Police reports that were buried, witness statements that were never followed up on. Maintenance records showing the brakes on your parents' car had been recently serviced, but somehow failed catastrophically. And most damning, a paper trail showing Edward Whitmore paid off the investigating officer. The coffee cup slipped from my nerveless fingers, crashing to the floor. I barely noticed. Why? Why would they kill my parents for properties? Because those properties are now worth approximately $40 million, and because Edward Whitmore is Vincent Calabresi's cousin. Theo crouched in front of me, his hands gentle on my knees. It all connects, Tessa. Your parents' deaths, Marcus targeting you specifically for a relationship, stealing your restaurant. It was all orchestrated to keep you powerless and broke, unable to investigate or fight back. Tears burned my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. You're telling me that the man I was going to marry helped murder my parents? I'm telling you that Marcus is a weapon his family has been using against you for years. Theo's thumbs brushed against my knees, grounding. And I'm telling you that Vincent Calabresi now owns those properties through various legal transfers, and he will do anything to keep them, including killing me and my sister if we become a problem. The realization settled over me like a shroud. That's why you hired me. Not because you wanted to help me, but because you needed to control where I was, keep me safe while you investigated. That's how it started. His honesty was almost brutal. But then I got to know you. Watched you rebuild your confidence, saw your talent, your strength. Listened to you laugh with the kitchen staff and turn every event into something special. And somewhere along the way, protecting you stopped being a business decision and started being personal. I wanted to pull away, to rage at him for manipulating me the same way Marcus had. But the way he was looking at me, like I was something precious and rare, made it impossible to move. Why didn't you tell me any of this before? Would you have believed me? A stranger telling you your parents were murdered, that your ex-fiancé was part of a conspiracy against you? He shook his head. You would have thought I was insane. I needed you to trust me first, to see that I was different from Marcus. And the kiss last night was real. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. Everything I feel for you is real, Tessa. The protection, the investigation, bringing down Marcus and Vincent, that's business. But this, he gestured between us. This is personal. My phone rang, shrill and intrusive. I fumbled it from my purse, saw my sister Lily's name on the screen. I need to answer it. Theo stood, moving back to give me privacy. Lily? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Everything okay? It's early for Tessa. Her voice was wrong, tight with fear, trying to sound calm. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They said if I didn't call you, they'd... My blood turned to ice. Lily, what's happening? Where are you? A new voice came on the line. Male, unfamiliar, coldly amused. Miss Sullivan, your sister is currently enjoying our hospitality. Whether she continues to enjoy it depends entirely on your cooperation. Theo was suddenly beside me, pressing a button on my phone to activate the speaker. His face had gone hard, dangerous in a way that should have frightened me. Who is this? I demanded, my chef's command voice cutting through the panic. Someone who needs your particular skills. The man chuckled. Tonight, Theodore Castellano is hosting a private dinner for certain business associates. You will be preparing that dinner personally, as his event planner and talented chef, and you will add a special ingredient to Mr. Castellano's portion. The ingredient will be provided to you this afternoon. Poison. He was asking me to poison Theo. I looked at the man standing beside me, saw the muscle ticking in his jaw, the fury banked in his eyes. And if I refuse? I already knew the answer. Then your sister's body will be found in Lake Michigan, piece by piece. We'll start with her fingers. She has such lovely hands. Would be ashamed to ruin them. The casual cruelty in his tone made my stomach heave. You have until 6 p.m. to confirm your cooperation. A package will be delivered to the hotel kitchen at 4. Follow the instructions precisely, and Lily will be returned to you unharmed after Mr. Castellano's unfortunate passing. The line went dead. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then I was on my feet, pacing, my chef's brain already working through the problem even as terror threatened to overwhelm me. I need to go to the police. They have Lily. They're going to kill her. The police can't help you. Theo's voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. Half of them are on Vincent's payroll. The other half are too afraid to act against him. If you go to the police, Lily dies. Then what do? I spun to face him, tears finally spilling over. Let them kill you? Choose between my sister and whatever this is between us. You trust me. He closed the distance between us, gripping my shoulders firmly. You let me handle this. How? How can you possibly handle this? They have Lily. My voice rose to a near scream. They want me to poison you. They're going to kill her if I don't. Tessa. He gave me a gentle shake. Look at me. Really look at me. I forced myself to meet his eyes, saw something there that stopped my spiraling panic. Not fear, not uncertainty, just cold, calculated determination. Do you know what I do? He asked quietly. Not the hotels, not the legitimate businesses. Do you know what I really am? I think I'm starting to figure it out. My voice shook. I'm the head of the Castellano family. We control shipping, construction, waste management, and several other enterprises throughout Chicago and the Midwest. We have connections in every level of government, every police department, every courthouse. His thumbs rubbed circles on my shoulders, anchoring. Vincent Calabrese has been trying to muscle into my territory for 3 years. This, kidnapping your sister, forcing you to act against me. This is his move. He thinks he's backed me into a corner. Hasn't he? I wanted to hope, but hope felt dangerous. He's given me exactly what I needed. Justification to end this war permanently. Theo pulled me closer, his forehead resting against mine. I have men tracking Lily right now. By tonight, I'll know where she's being held. And I promise you, Tessa, I will get her back. And if you can't, if something goes wrong? I gripped his shirt, needing to hold on to something solid. I can't lose her. She's all I have left. You have me. The words were simple, but the intensity behind them made my breath catch. I told you yesterday. You're under my protection now. That extends to your sister. No one touches what's mine. Ever. There was that possessive edge again, the assumption of ownership that should have infuriated me. Instead, it made me feel safe for the first time since Lily's terrified voice had come through the phone. What do you need me to do? I asked quietly. Exactly what they told you to do. At my sharp inhale, he continued quickly. You'll accept the package. You'll prepare the dinner. You'll add the poison to my food. But before you do, you'll bring the poison to me. I have contacts who can analyze it, determine what it is, and prepare an antidote. That's insane. I pulled back to stare at him. What if something goes wrong? What if they're watching and see me give you the poison first? What if... Then we improvise. He cupped my face between his hands. But we will get Lily back, and we will destroy everyone involved in hurting your family. I swear it. His certainty was almost frightening. This was a man used to wielding power, used to winning, used to removing obstacles with ruthless efficiency. And right now, that power was focused on protecting me. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. Why do you care so much? You barely know me. I know you better than you think. His smile was slight, sad. 6 months of watching, learning everything about you. 6 months of seeing your strength, your talent, the way you've survived everything life threw at you. 6 months of falling for a woman who didn't even know I existed beyond a distant boss. Theo, I didn't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, gentle and lingering. Just trust me. Let me protect you and Lily. And when this is over, when Vincent and Marcus and everyone who hurt you is dealt with, then we'll figure out what this is between us. And if I can't handle what you are, I had to ask. If I can't live with the violence, the crime, then I'll let you go. The pain in his voice was real. But give me a chance first, Tessa. Let me show you that I'm different from Marcus. That I'll never hurt you, never steal from you, never use you. That everything I do to protect you. His phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening. They're moving Lily. My men are tracking the vehicle. I need to coordinate the extraction. Let me come with you. No. He was already moving toward a room I assumed was his office. You go to work, act normal, accept the package when it arrives. I'll have someone watching you at all times. When the dinner starts tonight, follow your instincts. If something feels wrong, you signal my security team. We'll be ready. What's the signal? He paused in the doorway, a slight smile crossing his face despite the tension. Order me a Manhattan. I hate Manhattans. Everyone in my organization knows that. If you bring me one during dinner, they'll know something's wrong. It was absurd, planning for disaster using cocktail preferences, but I nodded, committing it to memory. Theo, get my sister back. I will. His gaze held mine for a long moment. And Tessa? After tonight, no one will ever threaten you again. I'll make sure of it. He disappeared into his office, leaving me standing in his beautiful apartment with cold coffee on the floor and my entire world crumbling around me. My parents hadn't died in an accident. They'd been murdered. Marcus hadn't loved me. He'd targeted me as part of a long-term conspiracy. And the man who'd just promised to save my sister was a crime lord who'd been watching me for months. I should have run. Should have grabbed Lily and disappeared, started over somewhere far from Chicago and its dangerous families and their deadly games. But as I listened to Theo's voice through the office door, firm and commanding, as he coordinated whatever criminal empire he controlled, I realized I wasn't going anywhere. Because despite everything, despite the manipulation, the surveillance, the casual violence implicit in his world, Theo Castellano was the first man since my parents died who'd made me feel truly protected, who'd looked at what Marcus had done to me and decided to make it right, who'd kissed me like I was precious and promised to destroy anyone who hurt me. Maybe that made me as twisted as the men who played these power games. Or maybe it just made me a woman who was tired of being a victim, ready to become something more dangerous. Theo's driver, the same security guard from earlier, appeared at my elbow. "I'll take you to work, Miss Sullivan. You'll need to be seen arriving normally, acting as if nothing has changed." I nodded, gathering my purse, trying to smooth my expression into something that wouldn't betray the chaos raging inside me. As we left the loft, I caught a glimpse of Theo through his office window, phone pressed to his ear, his face hard with concentration. He looked up, caught my eye, and mouthed 2 words. "Trust me." God help me. I did. The hotel felt different as I walked through its elegant corridors that afternoon. Or maybe I was different, seeing everything through the lens of what Theo had revealed. The uniformed security guards weren't just hotel employees. They were Theo's soldiers, part of a vast organization I'd been blind to for months. The wealthy guests weren't just clientele. Some of them were undoubtedly part of Chicago's criminal elite, doing business under the guise of luxury hospitality. I'd been living in a different world without even knowing it. Jeremy took one look at my face when I entered the kitchen and immediately pulled me into the walk-in cooler, the only place in the hotel where conversations couldn't be easily overheard. "What happened?" His hands gripped my shoulders, forcing me to meet his eyes. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Lily's been kidnapped." The words came out flat, drained of emotion by sheer shock. "They're making me poison Theo tonight or they'll kill her." Jeremy's face went pale, then red with fury. "Who? Marcus? Vincent? Does it matter?" I laughed, a jagged sound with no humor in it. "They have my sister. They want me to murder my boss. And Theo just told me that my parents' car accident 6 years ago wasn't an accident. It was murder orchestrated by Marcus's family to steal our properties." Jesus Christ. Jeremy pulled me into a hug, and I let myself lean into his warmth for just a moment. "What are you going to do?" "Exactly what they're asking. Theo knows about the poisoning attempt. He has a plan to get Lily back." I pulled away, forcing myself to breathe evenly. "The package should arrive at 4. I need you to pretend everything's normal, okay? Can you do that?" "Tessa, this is insane. You should go to the police." "The police can't help." I repeated Theo's words, believing them now. "This is bigger than me, bigger than Lily. This is about territory and power and old grudges I didn't even know existed. The only person who can help us is Theo." Jeremy's expression said everything about what he thought of trusting a crime lord with our lives, but he nodded. "What do you need from me?" "Help me prep for tonight's dinner. Beef Wellington, because of course Vincent Calabresi wants the most complicated, showiest dish possible. Keep everyone focused on the food, not on me. And if anything goes wrong..." I gripped his hand hard. "Get out. Don't try to be a hero." "Screw that." His jaw set stubbornly. "You're not doing this alone." The package arrived at precisely 4 p.m., delivered by a courier who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Inside the plain brown box was a small vial of clear liquid and a note with typed instructions. "Add 5 drops to Castellano's wine during dinner service. Symptoms will appear to be cardiac arrest. Do not deviate. We are watching." My hands shook as I held the vial, knowing that this innocent-looking liquid could kill Theo if I made even a small mistake. But I'd prepared thousands of dishes in my career, measured thousands of ingredients. I could do this. I had to do this. I pocketed the vial and returned to prepping the beef Wellington, falling into the familiar rhythm of cooking to steady my nerves. Puff pastry, mushroom duxelles, perfectly seared beef tenderloin. Each component required absolute precision and focus. It was almost meditative, this act of creation, and for brief moments I could forget that I was preparing a dinner that could end in multiple deaths. At 5:30, Theo appeared in the kitchen doorway. Our eyes met across the stainless steel workspace, and without a word, I excused myself to check on wine inventory in the cellar. He followed at a discreet distance. The wine cellar was cool, dim, and private. The moment the door closed behind us, Theo pulled me into his arms, and I let myself collapse against him, drawing strength from his solid presence. "Do you have it?" he asked quietly. I handed him the vial, watching as he held it up to the light, examining the clear liquid. My people analyzed a sample we acquired. It's a synthetic compound that mimics the symptoms of massive cardiac arrest. Undetectable in standard toxicology screens, lethal within 30 minutes. His voice was clinical, but his hand tightened on my waist. "There's an antidote, but it has to be administered within 10 minutes of ingestion." "How did you get a sample?" I didn't really want to know, but I asked anyway. One of Vincent's men was persuaded to share information. The casual way he said it suggested things I definitely didn't want details about. "The antidote is already in my system. I took it an hour ago as a preventative measure. So when you add this to my wine, I'll be fine. But you'll need to fake the symptoms." Understanding dawned. You'll need to pretend you're dying. For about 5 minutes, until my security team can secure Lily and neutralize Vincent's men. He tucked the vial into his jacket pocket, then cupped my face. "I need you to trust me, Tessa. Trust that I've planned for every contingency. Trust that I will get your sister back." What if they kill her the moment they think you're dead? The fear had been gnawing at me all afternoon. What if this is just an excuse to eliminate both of us? Then they've underestimated how much I care about you. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, the gesture achingly tender. "I have 30 men positioned around the building where Lily's being held. The moment Vincent gets confirmation that I'm dead, they'll extract her. She'll be safe before Vincent realizes he's been played." "And what about you? If Vincent thinks you're dying, won't he try to finish the job? I'm counting on it." Theo's smile was sharp, dangerous. "Vincent has wanted me dead for 3 years. Tonight, he'll think he finally succeeded, and he'll get sloppy. He'll reveal himself, his allies, his complete organization. And then I'll rise from the dead and destroy everything he's built." It was an audacious plan, reckless even. But watching Theo's confidence, seeing the cold calculation in his eyes, I believed he could pull it off. This was a man who'd built an empire through intelligence and ruthlessness, who'd turned legitimate businesses into fronts for a vast criminal enterprise without anyone noticing. If anyone could fake his own death and live to tell about it, it was him. What about Marcus? I had to know. Where does he fit into tonight? Marcus will be at the dinner, playing the role of Vincent's loyal partner. Theo's expression hardened. "He'll be watching you closely, waiting to see if you can go through with poisoning me. And when I collapse, he'll finally feel like he's won, like he's destroyed the last piece of your life that gave you hope. But I'll know you're alive." I gripped his lapels, needing to hold on to something real. "I'll have to watch you fake dying and pretend I don't know it's an act. Can you do that?" His question was serious, searching my face. "Can you watch me collapse? See Marcus gloat. Maintain your cover until Lily is safe?" Could I? I'd spent 3 years rebuilding myself after Marcus's betrayal, developing armor thick enough to survive in a city that had taken everything from me. But watching Theo die, even knowing it was fake, that would require a different kind of strength. Yes. The word came out stronger than I felt. For Lily, I can do anything. For Lily. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. And maybe a little bit for me? Despite everything, I felt a smile tug at my lips. Maybe a little bit. His phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression tightening. They're moving Lily again. My men are tracking, but we're running out of time. You need to get back to the kitchen. Dinner starts in 45 minutes. I nodded, starting toward the door, but his hand caught my wrist. Tessa, after tonight, things are going to change. Vincent's organization will collapse. Marcus will pay for what he did to you and your family. And there will be questions about what you knew and when you knew it. Are you saying I'm going to be arrested? Fear shot through me. I'm saying that being connected to me comes with complications. His grip tightened. But it also comes with protection. After tonight, everyone in Chicago will know you're mine. That means you'll never have to fear Marcus or anyone else again. But it also means you'll be part of my world. Permanently. What if that's not what I want? I had to ask, even though I already knew my answer. Then I'll set you up anywhere in the world you want to go, with enough money to rebuild your life. His voice held no judgment, just sad acceptance. But I hope you'll stay. I hope you'll give us a chance to see what this could be. Us. The word felt dangerous and exhilarating all at once. Ask me again when Lily's safe. Fair enough. He released my wrist, but his gaze held mine. One more thing. When I collapse tonight, Vincent will likely try to get you alone, to ensure you actually poisoned me and aren't somehow involved in a counter-operation. He might threaten you, might offer you money to disappear, might even try to kill you if he thinks you're a liability. My blood ran cold. How do I protect myself? You don't. My men will protect you. He pulled a small device from his pocket. It looked like an elegant bracelet with a single diamond. Wear this. If you press the stone, it sends an immediate alert to my security team. They'll be on you in seconds. I let him fasten the bracelet around my wrist, the weight of it both comforting and terrifying. I was really doing this, really about to poison my employer, watch him fake his death, and survive whatever came after. Theo, if something goes wrong, it won't. He cut me off with another kiss, this one fierce and claiming. But if it does, know that protecting you and Lily is worth any risk. You're worth any risk. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in the wine cellar with shaking hands and a bracelet that felt like both armor and a collar. The next 45 minutes passed in a blur of controlled chaos. The beef Wellington came out perfectly. Golden puff pastry, pink beef, rich duxelles, plated with artistic precision on bone china. The wine was decanted, the table in the private dining room set with crystal and candles. Everything was perfect, elegant, exactly the kind of dinner that would be remembered. Just not for the reasons Vincent thought. I watched through the kitchen service window as the guests arrived. Vincent Calabresi, silver-haired and coldly handsome in a charcoal suit. Marcus, looking smug and viciously satisfied, his new fiancée conspicuously absent. 3 other men I didn't recognize, all with the same aura of controlled violence that hung around Vincent like expensive cologne. And Theo, appearing last, looking devastatingly handsome in a black tuxedo, his expression politely neutral as he greeted his enemies like honored guests. My hands clenched on the counter. Jeremy appeared at my elbow, his face tight with worry. Are you sure about this? No. Honesty felt safer than bravado. But what choice do I have? You could run, right now. Just leave and never look back. And abandon Lily? Abandon Theo? I shook my head. That's not who I am anymore. I'm done running from Marcus. done letting powerful men decide my fate. Tonight, I fight back. Jeremy studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Then let's make this the best damn last meal of Vincent Calabresi's career. We served the first course. Seared scallops with parsnip puree and microgreens. I watched the guests eat, saw Marcus lean over to whisper something to Vincent, both men's gazes sliding toward the kitchen where they knew I was watching. Theo caught my eye for just a moment, his expression unreadable. Second course, third course. The dinner progressed with agonizing slowness, each dish a masterpiece that I barely registered preparing. My entire being was focused on the wine service approaching with the main course, on the vial in my pocket that felt heavier with each passing minute. When the beef Wellington was plated and ready, I pulled the vial from my pocket with shaking hands. 5 drops into Theo's wine. That's all it would take. Let me do it. Jeremy reached for the vial, but I pulled back. No. If this goes wrong, I won't let you go down with me. I uncorked Theo's wine, a Bordeaux that cost more than my monthly rent, and carefully, precisely, added 5 drops of the clear liquid. It dissolved instantly, leaving no trace. I handed the wine glass to the server along with the others, watched her carry them into the dining room on a silver tray. Through the window, I saw her place each glass in front of its designated guest, saw Theo lift his, swirl it professionally, inhale the bouquet. Then he drank. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Theo continued his conversation with the man to his left, his expression pleasant and engaged. Marcus watched him like a hawk, waiting. Vincent's face remained impassive, but his fingers drummed once against the table, the only sign of his anticipation. Then Theo's hand went to his throat. His eyes widened, the glass dropping from his fingers to shatter against the floor. He tried to stand, stumbled, his chair crashing backward as he fell. The dining room erupted into chaos. Vincent was on his feet instantly, as were his men. Marcus stood frozen, shock and savage satisfaction warring on his face. And Theo was on the floor, convulsing, his face contorted in apparent agony, foam flecking his lips. It looked real. God help me, it looked real. And even knowing it was an act, I felt my heart shatter watching him. One of Vincent's men, a thick-necked enforcer, pulled a gun and pointed it at Theo's writhing form. Should I finish him? No. Vincent's voice cut through the chaos. Let the poison do its work. I want to watch him die slowly. Know that his empire is about to become mine. Marcus finally found his voice. What about the chef? She did this? Vincent's cold gaze swung toward the kitchen, toward me. Bring her to me. 2 men I didn't recognize strode into my kitchen, grabbed my arms before I could react, and dragged me into the dining room. I didn't fight, couldn't afford to break character now. I kept my face blank, shocked, as if I couldn't understand what was happening. They threw me down beside Theo's still convulsing body. This close, I could see the sweat on his face, the way his muscles locked and spasmed. He was good. Too good. If I hadn't known better, I would have sworn he was dying. Vincent crouched beside me, his hand fisting in my hair, wrenching my head back to force me to look at him. Did you do this? I don't... I let my voice shake, let real tears fall. He's dying. Oh God, he's dying and I... Answer the question. Vincent's grip tightened painfully. Did you poison Theodore Castellano? Behind him, Marcus watched with undisguised glee. This was his revenge fantasy playing out. Me broken and terrified, Theo dying, everything I cared about destroyed. He didn't even try to hide his satisfaction. They have my sister. The words tumbled out, half truth and half lie. They said they'd kill her if I didn't put something in his wine. Good girl. Vincent's smile was hideous, triumphant. Your sister is fine, for now. Whether she stays that way depends on how useful you continue to be. Theo's convulsions were slowing. His breathing became shallow, ragged. I watched him, counted the seconds, waited for the signal that would tell me Lily was safe. Vincent's phone buzzed. He released my hair to check it, his expression shifting from triumph to confusion to fury in seconds. What the hell? Whatever he'd been about to say was cut off by the sound of breaking glass from multiple directions. Suddenly, the dining room was filled with armed men in black tactical gear, red laser sights painting every surface, and a voice over a megaphone ordering everyone to get on the ground. But I only had eyes for Theo, who opened his eyes, looked directly at me, and winked. Then all hell broke loose. The next 60 seconds were the longest of my life. Vincent's men reached for their weapons, but Theo's security team was faster, better trained, utterly ruthless. Gunshots cracked through the elegant dining room, shattering crystal and splintering wood paneling. I threw myself flat beside Theo as bullets zipped overhead, my chef's instinct to avoid injury overriding everything else. Then Theo was moving, not dying, not weak, but rising with lethal grace, pulling a gun from somewhere inside his jacket and putting 2 rounds into the chest of the enforcer who'd suggested finishing him off minutes earlier. The man dropped like a puppet with cut strings. "Stay down!" Theo shouted at me, then pivoted to aim at Vincent, who'd managed to draw his own weapon. But one of Theo's men tackled Vincent before he could fire, slamming him face first into the imported Italian tile with a crunch that suggested a broken nose. Marcus tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Jeremy, my loyal, brave, utterly insane sous chef, stuck out his leg from the kitchen doorway and sent Marcus sprawling. Jeremy then proceeded to sit on him, which would have been comical if not for the violence erupting around us. The firefight lasted less than a minute. Theo's men were simply better armed, better positioned, better prepared. When the smoke cleared, 3 of Vincent's enforcers were dead or dying. Vincent himself was zip-tied and bleeding on the floor, and Marcus was whimpering under Jeremy's weight. Theo crossed to me in 3 long strides, hauling me to my feet and running his hands over me frantically, checking for injuries. "Are you hurt? Did they—" "I'm fine." I grabbed his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. "Lily. Where's Lily?" "Safe." He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, then turned it to show me a video feed. My sister sat in what looked like a hotel room, wrapped in a blanket, unharmed if shaken. A female member of Theo's security team sat beside her, offering water and what looked like reassurance. Relief hit me so hard I nearly collapsed. Theo caught me, held me against his chest as I shook with reaction to everything that had just happened. "She's really okay?" My men extracted her 45 seconds after I died. His hand stroked down my back, soothing. "They got everyone involved in her kidnapping. She was never in real danger. I had 3 different teams ready to move the moment Vincent made his play." "You bastard." Vincent's voice was thick with blood and fury. "You were supposed to be dead." "Disappointed?" Theo released me reluctantly, turning to face his defeated enemy. "You really thought I'd be stupid enough to eat or drink anything at a dinner with you without taking precautions? I've been building a case against you for 3 years, Vincent. Tonight you finally gave me everything I needed to destroy you completely. You have nothing." But Vincent's confidence was cracking. "This was self-defense at worst. Your lawyers will be busy defending themselves." Theo crouched beside Vincent, his voice dropping to something dangerous and intimate. "See? While you were focused on killing me tonight, my people were executing search warrants on your properties, your businesses, your offshore accounts. We found evidence of money laundering, racketeering, human trafficking, and, most relevant to Miss Sullivan here, proof that you ordered the murder of Robert and Catherine Sullivan 6 years ago." The blood drained from Vincent's face. Even beaten and bleeding, the implications of what Theo was saying hit him like a physical blow. "You're lying. I have the maintenance records from their vehicle. The payments you made to the brake specialist who sabotaged them. Witness statements from people you thought were too afraid to talk. Theo's smile was terrifying in its cold satisfaction. And I have Edward Whitmore's confession, recorded 2 hours ago before he unfortunately suffered a fatal heart attack. Marcus made a strangled sound. My father. You killed my father. I didn't have to. Theo didn't even look at Marcus. Once he realized how much evidence I had, he took his own life. Cowardly, but efficient. He did leave a lovely confession behind, though, naming everyone involved in the Sullivan murders, including you, Marcus. I didn't kill anyone. Marcus struggled under Jeremy's weight. I was 17 when they died. I didn't even know Tessa then. No, but you knew what your father had done when you targeted her years later. Theo finally turned to look at Marcus, and I saw murder in his eyes. You knew she was the daughter of people your family murdered, and you still seduced her, stole from her, destroyed her career. That makes you complicit. That makes you mine. Police were flooding into the room now. Real police. The kind who weren't on Vincent's payroll. I recognized the lead detective from news coverage of organized crime cases, watched as he took in the scene with professional efficiency. Mr. Castellano. The detective nodded respectfully. We got your evidence packages. Very thorough. Vincent Calabrese, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, and about 40 other charges I'll detail downtown. He gestured to his officers, who began reading Vincent his rights. Vincent's last look was pure hatred, directed at Theo. This isn't over. I have friends, allies. They'll come for you, for her. They won't. Theo's certainty was absolute. Because by morning, everyone will know what happened here tonight. They'll know you tried to kill me and failed. They'll know I have evidence to bring down anyone connected to you. And they'll know that Tessa Sullivan is under my personal protection, which means she's untouchable. He paused. Unless they want to end up like you. As the police led Vincent away, I felt the reality of what had just happened begin to sink in. My parents' murderers would face justice. Marcus would pay for what he'd done to me. Lily was safe. And I was standing in a destroyed dining room, having just participated in an elaborate criminal conspiracy, watching the man I'd poisoned orchestrate the arrest of Chicago's most dangerous crime family. I think I need to sit down. My voice sounded distant, disconnected. Theo was beside me instantly, guiding me to an undamaged chair, kneeling in front of me. Breathe, Tessa. Just breathe. It's over. Is it? I looked around at the bodies being covered, the evidence being photographed, Marcus being led away in handcuffs. My parents were murdered. I poisoned you. My hands started shaking uncontrollably. I could have killed you. If your antidote hadn't worked, if something had gone wrong. But it didn't. His hands closed over mine, warm and steady. You trusted me, and I kept you safe. I kept Lily safe. I kept my promise. By faking your own death and starting a war. Hysteria bubbled up in my throat as a laugh. This is insane. You're insane. I'm insane for going along with this. Probably. He smiled slightly. But you're also incredibly brave. You faced down your worst fear to save your sister. You trusted me even when every instinct probably told you not to. And you're still here, still standing, when most people would have fallen apart. Jeremy appeared, looking rumpled and proud. For what it's worth, that was the most badass thing I've ever seen. Both of you. Though next time you plan to fake a death, maybe give your sous chef a heads up, I nearly had a heart attack. You sat on Marcus. I started laughing, couldn't stop. You literally sat on him like he was a toddler throwing a tantrum. He weighs like 150 pounds. It wasn't hard. Jeremy grinned. Besides, after what he did to you, I've wanted to punch him for 3 years. Sitting on him was the next best thing. The detective approached, notebook in hand. Miss Sullivan, I need to take your statement about tonight's events and about your parents' case. The next 2 hours were a blur of questions, explanations, and legal maneuvering that I barely understood. Theo stayed beside me the entire time, his presence both comforting and intimidating as he guided my answers. Made sure I didn't incriminate myself in ways that couldn't be explained as acting under duress. By the time we finished, dawn was breaking over Chicago. The dining room had been cleared of bodies, evidence collected, and Theo's hotel staff were already working on repairs. You'd never know a small war had been fought here hours ago. I want to see Lily. I stood on shaking legs, exhausted but determined. She's at my penthouse. Theo offered his arm, and I took it, needing the support. I had her brought there as soon as she was medically cleared. She's safe, Tessa. I promise. The drive to Theo's building, a luxury high-rise with the kind of security that would make the Pentagon jealous, felt surreal. I kept waiting to wake up, to discover this was all some stress-induced nightmare. But Theo's hand stayed warm in mine, real and solid, anchoring me to reality. His penthouse took up the entire top floor, all glass and steel and expensive art that probably cost more than my entire life. But I barely noticed the luxury. All I saw was Lily, curled up on a massive sectional sofa, alive and whole and crying the moment she saw me. I ran to her, gathering my baby sister into my arms, both of us sobbing with relief and residual terror. She was 23, tall and beautiful, and so achingly young, and she'd been kidnapped because of a war I hadn't even known was being fought. I'm so sorry. I kissed her hair, her face, anywhere I could reach. God, Lily, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. No. She pulled back, gripping my shoulders hard. Those men said you'd blame yourself. They said you'd feel guilty. But Tessa, you saved me. Whatever you did, however this happened, you saved me. Theo saved you. I glanced back at where he stood by the windows, giving us privacy. I did what I had to do. Lily's gaze followed mine, assessing. The scary hot mob boss? Crime lord. I don't know why I corrected her. And yes, the one who's been watching you for months? At my startled expression, she smiled shakily. His security team wasn't exactly subtle once they rescued me. They told me everything. How he's been protecting you, investigating your parents' death, planning to take down Vincent and Marcus. She paused. They also mentioned he's completely in love with you. My heart stuttered. They said that? They didn't have to. I saw how he looked at you in that video feed they showed me, when you were being questioned by Vincent. Like you were the only thing in the world that mattered. Lily squeezed my hands. Tessa, I know this is crazy and dangerous, and probably a terrible idea. But when was the last time someone looked at you like that? Like you were precious? Never. The answer was never. Marcus had looked at me like I was a possession to be acquired and then discarded. Other men had looked at me with appreciation or desire or casual interest. But Theo looked at me like I was something worth destroying his enemies for. I should probably think this through more carefully. I stood, aware of Theo turning from the windows as I approached. I should consider the implications, the danger, the moral complications of being involved with someone who's clearly committed multiple crimes. Probably. Theo's expression was carefully neutral, but I saw the tension in his shoulders, the hope he was trying to hide. But I'm going to kiss you instead. And I did, rising on my toes to press my lips to his, pouring all of my relief and terror and growing feelings into the contact. He responded immediately, his arms coming around me, holding me like I was something infinitely precious that he'd nearly lost. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I meant what I said earlier. You always have a choice. If this is too much, if you can't handle what I am, I'm a chef who just poisoned someone and survived a shootout. I smiled against his lips. I think I can handle dating a crime lord. Dating. His smile was pure male satisfaction. I was thinking something more permanent. Let's start with dating and see where it goes. But I was smiling too, feeling lighter than I had in years. Also, I have conditions. Name them. He'd apparently agree to anything in this moment. 1. You help me rebuild my career, my restaurant, my reputation, all of it. I want La Maison Rouge back. Already done. I bought the building Marcus was using 2 months ago. It's yours whenever you're ready. I blinked. You bought my restaurant? Technically, I bought Marcus's restaurant, but it was always yours. He brushed a strand of hair from my face. I've been waiting for the right time to return it. Consider it yours. Condition 2. Lily stays protected. Whatever security you've given me extends to her. Done. She'll have a protection detail whether she wants it or not. At my concerned look, he added, discreet. They'll stay out of sight unless there's danger. Condition 3. And this is the big one. I took a deep breath. I need you to go legitimate. Not overnight, not immediately, but eventually. I can't build a life with someone who might end up dead or in prison. His expression sobered. That's a big ask, Tessa. My family has been in this business for generations. I know. Which is why I'm saying eventually, not tomorrow. I held his gaze. But if you want me, really want me, not just for now, but for the future, then I need to know we have a future. One that doesn't end with me visiting you in a federal prison. He was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded slowly. I can't promise it will be easy. There are obligations, ties that can't be severed cleanly. But I can start transitioning the legitimate businesses away from the criminal enterprises. It will take time, maybe years, but I'll do it. For you. For us. I corrected. Because I meant what I said about helping. I'm not just your girlfriend sitting at home waiting for you. I'm your partner in everything. His smile was slow, dangerous, and utterly captivating. Partner. I like the sound of that. Behind us, Lily cleared her throat loudly. This is super romantic and everything. But can we maybe get some food? I've been kidnapped and traumatized, and I stress eat. Theo laughed. A real, unguarded sound I'd never heard from him before. What would you like? I can have anything delivered. Tessa's cooking. Lily looked at me with pleading eyes. Please? Your risotto? The one with the wild mushrooms? I need comfort food made by my sister who just saved my life and took down a criminal empire. I didn't take down. I started. But Theo cut me off. Yes, you did. You were the catalyst for everything that happened tonight. Vincent underestimated you. Thought you were just a pawn. He didn't realize you were the queen. His hand found mine, squeezed. And queens don't just survive, they conquer. It was ridiculous, overdramatic, probably influenced by the adrenaline still flooding all of our systems. But standing in Theo's penthouse with my sister safe and the man who'd risked everything to protect us looking at me like I'd hung the moon, I felt something I hadn't felt in 6 years. I felt powerful. Okay. I headed toward what I assumed was the kitchen. But I'm using your ridiculously expensive ingredients, and you're going to sit there and watch me cook like normal people instead of hovering like the overprotective crime lord you are. I make no promises. But he followed me, and when I found his kitchen, which was even more spectacular than the one in his loft, he settled onto a bar stool and watched me work with an expression of profound contentment. Lily joined him, and for the next hour, I cooked for the two people I loved most in the world, using the skills my parents had taught me, in the city that had tried to destroy me, under the protection of a man who'd declared war on my enemies. It should have felt surreal. Instead, it felt like coming home. The sun was fully up by the time we finished eating, Chicago's skyline glittering in the morning light like a promise of better things to come. Lily had finally crashed on Theo's guest bed, emotionally and physically exhausted, leaving Theo and me alone in his living room with cold coffee and the comfortable silence of people who'd survived something momentous together. "What happens now?" I asked, curled into the corner of his sectional sofa, wearing one of his t-shirts because my clothes from last night were covered in splattered sauce and the memory of violence. "Now?" Theo sat beside me, close enough that our thighs touched. "Now we rebuild. Your restaurant, your reputation, your life. Vincent's empire gets dismantled piece by piece. Marcus goes to prison for conspiracy to commit fraud, theft of intellectual property, and being an accessory after the fact to your parents' murders. Will it stick?" I'd seen enough crime shows to know that rich men with good lawyers often walked. "It will stick." His certainty was absolute. "I have prosecutors who owe me favors, judges who understand the value of my cooperation, and enough evidence to put Marcus away for 20 years minimum. He'll die in prison, Tessa. I'll make sure of it." I should have been horrified by his casual promise of destruction. Instead, I felt only grim satisfaction. "Good. As for your parents' case, that's trickier. Edward Whitmore is dead. Vincent will likely make a deal to testify against his remaining allies. But there are still loose ends. People who helped, who covered up evidence, who profited from your parents' deaths." He took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "I'll find every single one of them, and I'll make them pay." "Legally?" I had to ask. "Mostly." His smile was wry. "I meant what I said about going legitimate eventually. But that doesn't mean I won't use every tool at my disposal, legal and otherwise, to get justice for you." We sat in silence for a moment, and I thought about my parents. I'd spent 6 years believing their deaths were a tragic accident, mourning them but accepting that sometimes bad things happen to good people. Knowing the truth, that they'd been murdered, that their deaths were orchestrated by people who saw them as obstacles to profit, changed everything. It made my grief sharper, more complicated, tangled up with rage and the need for revenge I'd never allowed myself to feel before. "Tell me about them." Theo's quiet request interrupted my dark thoughts. "Your parents. I know the facts from my investigation, but I don't know who they were." I smiled, remembering. My dad was a dreamer. He owned 3 small commercial properties and thought he could turn them into something special. Artist studios, community spaces, places that would revitalize the neighborhood. My mom was the practical one, always doing the math, making sure his dreams had foundations in reality. I swallowed past the lump in my throat. They loved cooking. That's where I got it. Sunday dinners were sacred in our house. Everyone gathered, everyone contributed to the meal. My dad would make these elaborate French dishes he'd learned from some chef he befriended. My mom would roll her eyes but perfect his techniques. And Lily and I would just watch and learn and feel loved. They sound wonderful. Theo's hand tightened on mine. They were. And Marcus's family took them from us for property that wasn't even worth that much at the time. Bitterness crept into my voice. $40 million now, but back then, maybe $5 million total. They murdered 2 people for $5 million. People like Vincent and Edward don't see it that way. Theo's voice was hard. They see opportunities and obstacles. Your parents were obstacles, so they were removed. It's how they operate. No emotion, no guilt, just cold calculation. Is that how you operate? I needed to know. When you make decisions about your business, Your empire. Do you see people as obstacles? He was quiet for a long moment, considering the question with the seriousness it deserved. Sometimes. Not people like you or Lily or the innocents caught up in this world. But my enemies? The people who threaten what's mine? Yes. I see them as problems to be solved. He turned to face me fully. I'm not a good man, Tessa. I've done things, ordered things, that would make you sick if you knew the details. I've hurt people, destroyed lives, used violence to maintain power. I won't lie to you about that. But you're trying to change. I held his gaze. That's what you promised me, that you'd transition to legitimate business eventually. I will, because you're right. This life has an expiration date. Either I transition out voluntarily, or I end up dead or in prison like Vincent. He reached up to cut my face. But Tessa, you need to understand something. Going legitimate doesn't mean becoming harmless. I'll still have power, still have connections, still be someone people fear. That's not something I can just turn off. I'm not asking you to be someone you're not. I leaned into his touch. I'm asking you to be someone who builds things instead of breaking them. Someone who protects people instead of hurting them. Someone who uses power for more than just accumulating more power. Like helping a talented chef rebuild her stolen restaurant. His smile was slight. Like that. I smiled back. And maybe using your shipping empire for legitimate trade. And your construction company for actual construction projects. And your waste management business for... Actually, that one's mostly legitimate. He looked almost offended. We really do dispose of waste properly. Oh, well, then you're practically a saint. I was teasing now, feeling lighter despite the heavy conversation. A mob boss who believes in proper waste disposal. How civic-minded. Crime lord, he corrected with a grin. And yes, I believe in proper waste disposal. Also recycling. I'm very environmentally conscious. I started laughing. Real laughter that shook my whole body and brought tears to my eyes. It was absurd, sitting here discussing environmental consciousness with a man who'd orchestrated his own fake death last night. But somehow it was also perfect. This moment of normalcy amidst the chaos. When I finally caught my breath, I found Theo watching me with an expression so tender, it made my heart ache. What? I love your laugh. He said it simply, like it was an obvious fact. I've been trying to make you laugh for 6 months, watching you work, seeing glimpses of the joy underneath the armor you wear. But you were always too guarded, too hurt. Hearing you laugh now, really laugh, feels like a gift. Theo. I didn't know what to say to that. The intensity of his feelings should have scared me. But instead, it made me feel cherished in a way I'd never experienced before. I know it's too soon to say certain things. He continued before I could respond. I know you need time to process everything that's happened, to figure out if you can really be with someone like me. But I want you to know, I'm patient. I'll wait as long as you need, and in the meantime, I'll prove to you every single day that I'm worth the risk. My phone buzzed, breaking the moment. I checked it and felt my stomach drop. 47 missed calls, 163 text messages, and my social media was apparently exploding. Oh God. What? Theo leaned over to look at my screen, then cursed. The story broke. Someone, probably one of the police officers or hotel staff, had leaked what happened last night. The headlines were sensational. Chicago crime boss survives assassination attempt. Calabrese empire crumbles. Chef caught in mob war. And there, in several articles, was my name, my photo from the hotel website, speculation about my relationship with Theo. They're calling me your girlfriend. I scrolled through article after article, each one more invasive than the last. They found my old restaurant, Marcus's theft, our history. They're digging up everything. I can shut this down. Theo was already pulling out his phone. I have people who can manage the narrative. Make sure. No, I surprised myself with the firmness of my voice. Let them talk. Let them know what Marcus did, what Vincent did. Let the truth come out. Tessa, the attention will be intense. Reporters, paparazzi, people picking apart your entire life. Good. I stood, pacing to the windows, looking out at the city that had tried to break me. For 3 years I've been hiding, playing it safe, staying small, letting Marcus win because I was too afraid to fight back. But I'm done with that. If people want to talk about me, let them talk about how I survived, how I rebuilt, how I refused to stay a victim. Theo joined me at the windows, his presence solid and reassuring at my back. You're sure? I'm sure. I turned to face him. Besides, they're going to find out about us eventually anyway. We might as well control the narrative from the start. Us? His smile was slow and devastating. So there is an us. Apparently. I tried to sound casual, but my racing heart betrayed me. Though we're taking it slow. Dating, remember? Not whatever this intense, possessive, you're mine thing is that you keep doing. I'll try to dial it back. He didn't sound convincing. Though fair warning, I've spent 6 months thinking of you as mine. That's not a switch I can just turn off. Then I guess I'll have to get used to it. I surprised us both by stepping closer, wrapping my arms around his waist. Because apparently I like the intense, possessive thing more than I should. His arms came around me, holding me against his chest. And for a moment, we just stood there, two people who'd survived the night finding comfort in each other's presence. Outside, Chicago continued its morning routine, unaware of the seismic shifts in its criminal underworld, the fall of an empire, the rise of something new. My phone buzzed again, this time with a call from a number I recognized. My former landlord from La Maison Rouge. Miss Sullivan? His voice was obsequious, nervous. I heard about what happened last night. Terrible business, just terrible. But I wanted you to know. The building is available if you want it back. I'd be happy to work out very favorable lease terms. Not necessary. I kept my voice professional, cool. Mr. Castellano already acquired the property. I'll be reopening soon. Oh. His tone shifted to relieved. That's wonderful news. Please let me know if you need anything. I hung up without responding, then looked at Theo. You really bought my restaurant? I really did. 2 months ago, when Marcus's financial troubles became public knowledge. I knew he'd have to sell assets, so I made sure I was the buyer. He seemed almost shy about it. I was going to give it to you for your birthday next month. Surprise. My birthday isn't for 3 months. I would have waited. He shrugged, but then Vincent forced my hand with his assassination attempt, and the timeline moved up. I shook my head, overwhelmed by the casual way he talked about buying buildings and surviving assassinations. This is going to take some getting used to. We have time. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. All the time you need. Lily emerged from the guest room then, looking rumpled and vulnerable in borrowed clothes. Are you two done being disgustingly romantic? Because I'm starving again. And apparently, Theo's kitchen has ingredients for actual crepes, which seems like a crime not to use. Since when do you make crepes? I asked. Since never, which is why you're going to teach me. She grinned, some of her natural spark returning. Consider it therapy. We'll cook, and you'll tell me all about how you poisoned a crime lord and lived to brag about it. So we did. I taught my sister how to make perfect crepes while Theo watched and worked on damage control via phone and laptop, managing the fallout from last night with the same efficient ruthlessness he applied to everything. Lily asked 1,000 questions, some serious, some teasing, all of them helping to process the trauma of the past 24 hours. And slowly, the fog of shock began to lift. I was alive. Lily was safe. My parents' murderers would face justice. And I had a chance to rebuild everything Marcus had stolen from me. My restaurant, my reputation, my life. By noon, Theo's PR team had crafted a statement. I was a victim who'd been coerced into participating in an assassination attempt, protected by Theo when the situation became dangerous, and now recovering under his personal security. The statement positioned me as sympathetic rather than complicit, focusing on my survival rather than my actions. Will this work? I asked as we reviewed the press release. It's already working. Theo showed me his laptop, where social media sentiment had shifted from sensational speculation to widespread support. Apparently, the story of a chef whose restaurant was stolen, whose parents were murdered, forced into a mob war resonated with people. I was being called brave, strong, a survivor. It felt strange, being the center of so much attention. But maybe Theo was right. Maybe I was done hiding. When can I reopen La Maison Rouge? The question surprised even me. I'd expected to need more time to recover, to process. But the thought of my restaurant, my kitchen, my space, called to me like home. Whenever you're ready. Theo's smile was proud. The building needs some updates, new equipment, proper licensing. Give me 2 weeks to handle the details, and you can start hiring staff. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I could begin rebuilding the dream Marcus had stolen. The thought filled me with an energy I hadn't felt in years. I want Jeremy as my sous chef. I started planning immediately, my mind spinning with menus and designs and possibilities. And I want to expand the concept. Not just French cuisine, but a fusion of techniques I've learned in the past 3 years. Something that represents who I am now, not who I was when Marcus knew me. Whatever you want. Theo's hand found mine. It's your restaurant, Tessa. Your vision. I'm just providing the building and the capital. And the security? I raised an eyebrow. Because I'm guessing you'll insist on that. Absolutely. He was unapologetic. At least until we're certain all of Vincent's allies have been neutralized. After that, we can reassess. I can live with that. I squeezed his hand. Thank you. For everything. For protecting Lily. For getting justice for my parents. For giving me back my dream. You don't need to thank me. His voice was quiet, intense. Protecting you isn't a favor. It's not a transaction. It's what I do because you're... He paused, searching for words. Because you matter. More than anything. Lily made a gagging sound from across the kitchen. Okay, seriously. The romance is getting to be a bit much. Can we maybe watch a movie or something? Something violent to balance out all this feelings talk? We did. We spent the afternoon on Theo's ridiculously comfortable sectional, watching action movies and eating too much food, letting the normalcy of the moment heal some of the trauma from the night before. And when Lily finally fell asleep between us, exhausted by everything she'd been through, Theo and I sat in comfortable silence, our hands linked over her sleeping form. This could be our life. Theo said it quietly, not wanting to wake Lily. Quiet moments, normal days, building something together instead of just surviving. Is that what you want? I studied his profile in the dimming afternoon light, because you don't seem like a quiet moments kind of person. I wasn't, before you. He turned to meet my gaze. But watching you cook, hearing you laugh, seeing you with your sister, I'm starting to understand what I've been missing, what all the power and money and control can't give me. And what's that? Home. The single word held so much weight. You feel like home, Tessa, and I didn't even know I was looking for that until I found you. I should have been overwhelmed. This was too much, too fast, too intense. But somehow, with Theo, it felt right. Like we'd been building toward this moment for longer than 6 months. Like some part of me had been waiting for someone who would fight for me the way he had. "Ask me again," I whispered. "Ask you what?" "If I'll stay. If I'll give us a real chance. Ask me again." His eyes darkened with understanding. "Will you stay, Tessa? Will you let me prove that I can be what you need? Will you give me the chance to build something real with you?" "Yes." The word came easily, naturally. "But I have one more condition." "Name it." "When you transition to legitimate business, I want to be part of it. Not just your girlfriend watching from the sidelines, but your partner helping to build the new empire." I held his gaze. "I want to use my restaurant as the foundation. Expand into a restaurant group. Create a legitimate hospitality empire that can rival anything Vincent had. I want to show Chicago that the Sullivans didn't just survive. We thrived." His smile was fierce and proud. "Done. We'll build it together. Castellano Sullivan Hospitality. How does that sound?" Like a beginning. I leaned over Lily's sleeping form to kiss him, soft and sweet and full of promise. Outside, Chicago glittered in the fading light, a city of possibilities and second chances. Somewhere, Marcus sat in a jail cell awaiting trial. Vincent's empire was crumbling. My parents' murderers would face justice. And I was finally coming home. 3 months later, I stood in front of La Maison Rouge, my restaurant, truly mine now, with Theo beside me and a crowd of reporters, food critics, and Chicago elite waiting for the grand reopening. The building looked nothing like it had when Marcus owned it. We'd renovated completely, transforming the space into something that felt both elegant and welcoming, classic and modern, the perfect representation of where I'd been and where I was going. "Nervous?" Theo's hand found mine, hidden from view by my body. "Terrified," I admitted. "What if they hate it? What if the critics tear it apart? What if—" "They won't." His certainty was absolute. "But if they do, we'll handle it. Together." Together. That word had become our foundation over the past 3 months. Together, we'd navigated the media frenzy surrounding Vincent's arrest and trial. Together, we'd dealt with Marcus's attempts to plea bargain by offering more information about his father's crimes. Together, we'd built this restaurant from concept to reality, with me handling the creative vision and Theo managing the business side with surprising respect for my autonomy. It hadn't been easy. There were days when the attention felt overwhelming, when strangers recognized me from news coverage and wanted to discuss the most traumatic moments of my life, like they were entertaining gossip. There were nights when I woke up from nightmares about Lily's kidnapping, about watching Theo fake his death, about all the ways that night could have gone wrong. But there were also mornings waking up in Theo's arms, feeling safe in a way I'd never experienced before. There were afternoons in the kitchen developing new dishes, rediscovering my passion for cooking without the weight of Marcus's theft hanging over me. There were evenings with Lily, who'd moved into Theo's building 2 floors down and was thriving under the security and support of our strange new family. "Ready?" Jeremy appeared beside me, wearing the chef's whites of my new sous chef, grinning like we'd already won. "Because that crowd looks hungry, and we've got about 30 reservations in the next hour." I took a deep breath, squeezed Theo's hand once more, and stepped forward to address the crowd. "Thank you all for coming tonight. La Maison Rouge has always been more than just a restaurant to me. It's been a dream, a passion, a part of my identity. When I lost it 3 years ago, I thought that dream was dead." I paused, meeting the eyes of the people gathered. But dreams don't die easily. They hibernate, waiting for the right moment to bloom again. Tonight is that moment. The applause was polite, expectant. I cut the ribbon with oversized scissors that Jeremy had insisted were Instagram worthy. And then it was time. Time to prove that I deserved this second chance, that my talent was real, that I could create something that would last. The evening became a blur of organized chaos that every chef knows intimately. Orders flying, pans searing, the beautiful ballet of a kitchen working at peak efficiency. My new team moved with precision, executing dishes I'd spent 3 months perfecting. Modernized French classics with unexpected twists, presentations that were artistic without being pretentious, flavors that made people close their eyes and savor. Theo stayed out of the kitchen. We'd agreed on that boundary, that this space was mine to command. But I could see him through the service window, working the dining room like the consummate host he was, ensuring every guest felt important, every critic got his personal attention. Around 10 p.m., a familiar face appeared at the kitchen pass. Robert Chang, the food critic whose review of Marcus's restaurant 3 years ago had praised innovative French fusion, without knowing every dish he'd eaten had been stolen from me. I'd spent years hating him for that review, for legitimizing Marcus's theft with his influential words. He didn't recognize me at first, too focused on the dish Jeremy was plating. Then our eyes met, and I saw the recognition, the shock, the dawning horror as he put the pieces together. "Miss Sullivan." He approached slowly, carefully. "I owe you an apology, a significant one." "You do." I didn't try to soften it. "But right now I'm more interested in whether you think my food deserves the praise you gave Marcus." "Your food?" He gestured helplessly at his half-finished plate. "This is extraordinary. The technique, the creativity, the way each element works together. I've eaten at Marcus's restaurants multiple times over the years, and this is so far superior that I'm ashamed I ever gave him a positive review. So write that." I held his gaze. "Write about what you're eating tonight. Write about how real talent can survive theft and betrayal. Write a review that tells the truth." "I will." His promise felt sincere. "And Miss Sullivan?" "I'm sorry." Truly. I nodded, accepting the apology, but not absolving him. He'd have to earn his redemption the same way I'd earned mine, through honest work and time. The critic reviews would come later, I knew. But the real measure of success was the dining room full of people, the wait list growing by the hour, the reservations already booked solid for the next 3 months. We'd done it. I'd done it. La Maison Rouge was reborn, and this time, no one could take it from me. By midnight, the last guest had departed, the kitchen was cleaned, and my exhausted staff had gone home with praise and bonuses that made them smile despite their fatigue. Only Jeremy remained, sharing a bottle of champagne with me and Theo in the quiet dining room. "To La Maison Rouge." Jeremy raised his glass. "And to never sitting on Marcus again, because once was enough for a lifetime." We laughed, drank, and I let myself feel the full weight of what we'd accomplished. This was mine, built with my talent, my vision, my determination. No one could steal this. No one could claim they'd created it. This success was entirely, authentically mine. "I have something for you," Theo said, when Jeremy finally left, producing a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. My heart jumped. "Theo, if that's what I think it is, it's not." He opened the box to reveal not a ring, but a delicate necklace, a golden pendant shaped like a whisk, studded with tiny diamonds. "I know we agreed to take things slow, but I wanted you to have something to commemorate tonight. Something that represents your passion, your strength, your victory." I let him fasten it around my neck, the pendant settling just below my collarbones. It was perfect, elegant, but whimsical, expensive, but personal, just like everything about our relationship. "Thank you." I turned to face him. "For this, for the restaurant, for everything you've done to help me rebuild." "You rebuilt yourself, Tessa." His hands framed my face. I just provided some resources and support. the talent, the determination, the courage to face down your past. That was all you. We make a good team, I admitted. Castellano-Sullivan Hospitality is going to change Chicago. It already is. He pulled out his phone, showed me the social media explosion around tonight's opening. Food bloggers were posting photos, critics were tweeting preliminary reactions, and the hashtag #Le Rouge Renaissance was trending locally. By morning, everyone will know that Tessa Sullivan is back, and better than ever. And what about Marcus? I'd been avoiding news about his trial, but I couldn't help asking. Sentenced this morning. 25 years for conspiracy, fraud, and accessory to murder. With his cooperation against his father's associates, he might get out in 15. Theo's expression was cold. But he'll never work in this industry again. I've made sure of that. Good. I felt no sympathy, only satisfaction. Marcus had stolen years of my life. Now he'd lose years of his own. And Vincent? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Trial starts in 2 months. My lawyers are confident he'll get life. Theo pulled me closer. It's over, Tessa. Your parents' murderers will pay. Marcus will pay. Everyone who hurt you will face justice. Except you. The words came out before I could stop them. You've hurt people too. You've done things that would get you arrested if anyone knew. How is that different? He was quiet for a long moment. It's not. Not really. I'm a hypocrite, Tessa. I use the law to punish my enemies while operating outside it for my own purposes. I don't have a good defense for that, except to say that I'm trying to change. For you. For us. Are you? I needed to know. Really changing, I mean. Not just paying lip service to the idea while continuing to run a criminal empire. I am. He met my gaze squarely. I've sold off 3 of our more questionable operations in the past 2 months. The gambling, the loan sharking, the protection rackets, all gone. I kept the legitimate businesses, and the ones that can be made legitimate with time and proper management. It's cost me allies, pissed off people who depended on those revenue streams. But I'm doing it anyway because you were right. This life has an expiration date, and I'd rather choose my ending than have it chosen for me. How long? I asked. Until you're completely legitimate? 2 years, maybe 3. There are contracts to fulfill, relationships to carefully disentangle, people who need to be compensated or persuaded or occasionally threatened into accepting the new reality. He was honest with me, brutally so. But I'm committed to the timeline. By the time we've built Castellano-Sullivan Hospitality into the empire I know it can be, the Castellano family business will be above board, I promise. Okay. I believed him. More than that, I was willing to wait, to support him through the transition, to be his partner in building something better. 2 years. I can work with that. In the meantime. He pulled another box from his pocket, this one larger. I thought we could start planning. This box held a ring. A spectacular diamond set in platinum, surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like stars. It was the kind of ring that made statements, that marked territory, that announced to the world that I was claimed. I should have been angry that he'd lied about the necklace being his only gift. Instead, I started laughing, the same slightly hysterical sound from that day in his loft when we discussed his environmental consciousness. We've been dating for 3 months. I've been in love with you for 9. He said it simply, like it was obvious. I was in love with you before I even met you, watching you rebuild yourself, seeing your strength. Meeting you just confirmed what I already knew, that you're it for me, that I'll never want anyone else the way I want you. That's insane. But I was crying now, overwhelmed by the intensity of his feelings, the depth of his commitment. We barely know each other. I know that you stress bake croissants. That you call your sister every Sunday at 3 p.m., that you hum while you cook and get a tiny wrinkle between your eyebrows when you're focusing on a difficult technique. He wiped away my tears gently. I know you're brave and talented and stubborn, that you've survived things that would have broken most people, that you forgive but you don't forget, that you demand honesty even when it hurts, that you're building an empire with the same determination you use to perfect a sauce. Theo, I know it's too soon. I know I'm pushing. He took my hand, slid the ring onto my finger without asking permission, because of course he did. But I also know that I'm not letting you go, ever. So you can wear this ring as a promise of eventual marriage, or as a symbol of my commitment, or just as a really expensive piece of jewelry. I don't care, but I need you to know that I'm all in. Tessa. Completely, irrevocably, permanently in. The ring fit perfectly. Of course it did. He'd probably measured one of my other rings while I slept. The thought should have creeped me out, but instead, it made me smile through my tears. This was who Theo was. Possessive, intense, borderline obsessive about the people he loved. And somehow, impossibly, I'd fallen for him anyway. I love you too. The words felt like jumping off a cliff, exhilarating and terrifying all at once. I don't know when it happened exactly. Maybe that first kiss. Maybe when you faked your death to save my sister. Maybe just gradually over the past 3 months of you being patient and supportive and helping me rebuild. But I love you. Even though you're a crime lord with questionable ethics and an inability to respect personal boundaries. I prefer transitioning entrepreneur with protective instincts. But he was grinning, pulling me into his arms, kissing me with a desperation that suggested he'd been waiting to hear those words for a long time. We made love there in the restaurant, surrounded by the evidence of my success, christening the space that represented everything I'd survived and rebuilt. It felt perfect, raw and passionate and real, the physical manifestation of the emotional intimacy we'd been building for months. Afterward, lying on the floor wrapped in Theo's jacket, because we'd been too impatient to go upstairs to the apartment he'd installed above the restaurant. For security, he'd claimed, though we both knew it was so I'd have a private space near my kitchen. I looked at the ring on my finger and tried to process how my life had changed so dramatically. I have a condition, I said into the comfortable silence. Of course you do. Theo sounded amused. What is it? When we get married, and yes, that's when, not if, because I'm wearing this obscene ring and I'm not giving it back. I want the wedding to be here, in La Maison Rouge, and I want to cook the entire meal myself. You want to cook your own wedding dinner? He propped himself up on one elbow to look at me. Tessa, that's insane. You should be enjoying your wedding, not working. Cooking isn't work for me. It's joy. I met his gaze. And I want our wedding to be authentic. I want to serve food that I created, in a space that represents my victory, surrounded by the people who helped me survive. I want everyone who attends to taste what it means to come back from destruction. To know that no matter how thoroughly someone tries to break you, you can always rebuild if you're willing to fight. Okay. He kissed my forehead. We'll do it your way. But I'm hiring a full staff to assist, because you're not running that kitchen alone on your wedding day. Deal. I snuggled closer. How long do you think we should be engaged before the wedding? A year? 2? 2 weeks. I pushed up to stare at him. You're joking. I'm not. His expression was perfectly serious. I've already waited 9 months. I'll compromise and wait longer if you insist, but my preference would be to marry you as soon as legally possible. 2 weeks is insane. I need to plan, to prepare the menu, to... You have a staff for that now. You have me to handle all the logistics. You have everything you need. He cupped my face. Say yes, Tessa. Marry me in 2 weeks. here in your restaurant, surrounded by the life you've rebuilt. Let me make you mine legally, permanently, publicly." "1 month," I countered, my mind already spinning with possibilities. "I need at least that long to create a menu worthy of the occasion, and Lily needs time to find a dress, and 3 weeks. His smile was pure negotiation. "I'll arrange everything else. Flowers, music, guests, legal paperwork. You just focus on the food and showing up." 3 weeks. I agreed, then kissed him to seal the deal. "But I'm choosing the wine pairings. I wouldn't dream of interfering with your wine choices." He pulled me back down against his chest. "Though I reserve the right to veto anything from Marcus's old distributor." We lay there until dawn, planning our impossibly rushed wedding, talking about the expansion plans for Castellano-Sullivan Hospitality, dreaming about a future that 6 months ago would have seemed impossible. And when the morning light finally streamed through La Maison Rouge's windows, illuminating the space I'd rebuilt from ashes, I felt something I hadn't felt since before my parents died. I felt complete. And the wedding was exactly 3 weeks later, and it was perfect chaos. I spent the morning in my kitchen with Jeremy and my expanded staff, preparing a 7-course tasting menu that told the story of my journey, starting with a delicate consommé representing clarity after confusion, moving through dishes that incorporated techniques from every chef and culture that had influenced me, and ending with a deconstructed croissant dessert that represented rebuilding something broken into something even more beautiful. Lily served as my maid of honor, wearing a dress the color of champagne and crying through her entire getting ready speech about how proud our parents would have been. Theo's sister flew in from Italy, a surprise, since I hadn't known he had a sister, and immediately adopted me as family with the kind of fierce protectiveness that apparently ran in the Castellano bloodline. The ceremony was small, intimate, held in the main dining room with only 50 guests, our closest friends, key staff, and a few carefully selected business associates. No press, no cameras, except for one trusted photographer. This moment was ours alone. Robert Chang, the food critic, showed up uninvited with his review of La Maison Rouge's reopening printed and framed, a glowing piece that called my cooking transcendent, and publicly apologized for ever praising Marcus's stolen dishes. "Your wedding gift," he said simply, "and my penance." I hung it in the kitchen where everyone could see it. Theo's vows made me cry. Promises of protection, partnership, and permanent devotion delivered in that intense way of his that left no doubt he meant every word. My vows were simpler. I promise to build something beautiful with you. I promise to trust you even when it's hard. I promise to love you even when you're being an overprotective crime lord who can't respect boundaries. The guests laughed. Theo grinned and kissed me before the officiant gave permission, and I kissed him back, tasting our future in that moment. The dinner was a triumph. Every course was executed flawlessly, each wine pairing perfect, the entire meal a symphony of flavors that had guests closing their eyes in appreciation. Between courses, I worked the room with Theo, accepting congratulations and compliments, feeling the full weight of how far I'd come. Marcus's empty chair at his trial, facing a sentence that would keep him imprisoned through middle age. Vincent's frozen assets. His empire dismantled piece by piece. My parents' murderers facing justice. And me, married to a man who declared war on my enemies and won, rebuilding an empire with my own hands. Finally free. "What are you thinking?" Theo asked during our first dance, holding me close as a jazz trio played something slow and romantic. "That I should have tried to poison you months ago." I smiled at his startled laugh. "Look what it got me. A husband with questionable morals and a tendency toward violence." He spun me gracefully. "A partner. An empire. A second chance." I tightened my arms around his neck. Everything I thought I'd lost forever. You never lost it. His voice was serious despite the moment. It was always yours. Your talent, your strength, your dreams. Marcus could steal your restaurant, but he could never steal who you are. That was always untouchable. Later, after the last guest had departed and the staff had cleaned up and gone home, Theo and I stood in the kitchen where it had all begun, where I'd first added poison to his wine, where I'd taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. No regrets? He asked, leaning against the counter, watching me with that intense focus I'd grown to crave. Only one. I moved into his arms, feeling his warmth surround me. I regret that I didn't trust myself sooner, that I let Marcus make me small for so long. You're not small now. His hands traced down my spine. You're magnificent. You're building an empire, Tessa. By this time next year, Castellano Sullivan Hospitality will have 5 restaurants across 3 cities. In 5 years, we'll rival any hospitality group in the country. That's your plan? I looked up at him. 5 restaurants in 5 years? That's our plan, he corrected. Your vision, your talent, your standards. I just provide the capital and the business infrastructure. This is your empire, Mrs. Castellano. I'm just lucky enough to be part of it. Mrs. Castellano. The name still felt strange on my tongue, but I was learning to love it. Learning to love the way it connected me to this man who'd fought for me, protected me, helped me rebuild everything I'd lost. I'm pregnant. The words slipped out before I could second-guess them. I'd been saving the news for the perfect moment. And somehow, standing in my kitchen with my husband on our wedding night felt exactly right. Theo froze, his hands stilling on my back. What? Found out yesterday. I was going to tell you tonight, but then the wedding was so crazy, and I didn't want to overshadow. He kissed me, cutting off my nervous rambling with a kiss so tender and filled with joy that I felt tears prick my eyes. When he finally pulled back, his hands were shaking as they moved to rest on my still flat stomach. A baby. His voice was reverent, awed. We're having a baby. Babies, actually. I bit my lip. The doctor said twins. It runs in my family. My grandmother was a twin. Twins, he laughed, the sound pure and unguarded. Of course we are. Nothing about us is simple, so why would starting a family be any different? Are you happy? I needed to know. We've only been together a few months, and I know this is fast. I'm delighted. He pulled me flush against him, his forehead resting against mine. Terrified, but delighted. I'm going to be a father. We're going to be parents. Together. Together, I echoed. The word that had become our promise, our foundation, our future. We made love again, slower this time, gentle and reverent, as if acknowledging the new lives growing inside me. And afterward, lying in the apartment above La Maison Rouge, I thought about everything that had led to this moment. A year ago, I'd been broken, hiding in event planning, letting Marcus's theft define my life. 6 months ago, I'd been poisoning my future husband on orders from a crime lord, terrified for my sister's life. 3 months ago, I'd been rebuilding my restaurant from ruins, unsure if I had the strength to face the public again. Now I was married to a man who'd moved heaven and earth to protect me. I was pregnant with twins. I owned my restaurant free and clear. I was building an empire that would eclipse everything Marcus had stolen, and most importantly, I'd reclaimed myself, my talent, my confidence, my joy in cooking. Theo? I whispered into the darkness. He was drowsy, satisfied, his hand resting protectively over my stomach. Thank you for orchestrating my hiring at the hotel, for watching me for 6 months, for investigating Marcus and Vincent. for faking your death and saving Lily. I turned to face him. I know I should probably be creeped out by the stalking aspect, but honestly, thank you for caring enough to look. I'd do it again. His eyes opened, serious despite his exhaustion. I'd do all of it again, endure any risk, pay any price, because you're worth it, Tessa. You and Lily and now our children. You're worth everything. We're going to be okay. I said it with certainty, believing it for the first time. All of us. We're going to build something beautiful and lasting. We're going to show Chicago that the Castellano-Sullivan family doesn't just survive. We thrive. Yes, we will. He kissed me softly. Now sleep, Mrs. Castellano. Tomorrow we start building our empire. Tonight we just rest and be grateful we survived long enough to get here. I slept deeply for the first time in years. No nightmares about car accidents or stolen restaurants or poisoned wine. Instead, I dreamed about the future. A restaurant empire spanning continents, children learning to cook in my kitchen, Theo going fully legitimate and becoming the kind of businessman our kids could be proud of, growing old together without looking back. When I woke, the morning sun streamed through the windows, Chicago's skyline glittering with promise. Theo was already awake, watching me with that intensity that had become so familiar. "Good morning, wife." He said it like a prayer, like a promise. "Good morning, husband." I smiled, feeling the weight of my wedding ring, the new life growing inside me, the restaurant beneath us that represented everything I'd survived to reclaim. Ready to build an empire? With you? He pulled me close, kissing me thoroughly. Always. And we did. Over the next 5 years, Castellano-Sullivan Hospitality grew into exactly the empire we'd envisioned. 5 restaurants became 10, then 15. Each one bore my signature style. Innovative, authentic, honoring tradition while embracing evolution. Each one told a story of survival and rebirth. And each one was staffed with people who'd been given second chances, who understood that talent and determination could overcome any obstacle. Theo kept his promise. The criminal enterprises were sold or shut down. The Castellano family business transformed into a legitimate powerhouse that dominated Chicago's hospitality industry. It wasn't easy. There were allies who felt betrayed, enemies who tried to exploit the transition, moments when going back to the old ways seemed simpler than forging ahead. But we persevered, together. Our twins, a boy and a girl we named Robert and Catherine after my parents, grew up in kitchens, learning to crack eggs and roll dough before they could write their names. They knew their father had a complicated past, but they also knew he'd built something good, something lasting, something they could be proud of. Marcus served 12 years before being released on parole, broken and forgotten. His restaurants had all closed within a year of his imprisonment. His name, once synonymous with culinary innovation, became a cautionary tale about theft and hubris. He tried to rebuild, but no one would work with him. No one would invest. The empire he'd stolen crumbled to dust while mine flourished. I never spoke to him again. I didn't need to. My success was revenge enough. Vincent died in prison 3 years into his life sentence. His empire completely dismantled, his name erased from Chicago's power structure. When I heard the news, I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not closure, just nothing. He'd become irrelevant to my life, a footnote in a story that had moved far beyond him. And me? I became exactly who I was meant to be. Not just a chef, but an empire builder. Not just a survivor, but a woman who'd transformed her trauma into triumph, her pain into power, her stolen dreams into a dynasty that would outlast everyone who'd tried to destroy her. Every year on our anniversary, Theo and I returned to La Maison Rouge, now the flagship of our 15 locations. And I cooked him the same meal I'd served at our wedding, 7 courses that told our story, from poison to partnership, from destruction to dynasty. And every year, he'd look at me across the table with that same intensity he'd had the night we met, and he'd say, "Thank you for trying to poison me. Look what it got us." And every year, I'd laugh and raise my glass and toast to the most unlikely love story Chicago had ever known. A chef and a crime lord who'd built an empire on the foundations of revenge and found love in the ruins of war. We'd survived. We'd thrived. And we'd proven that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so spectacular, so undeniably successful, that everyone who tried to break you can only watch from the sidelines as you soar. That was my recipe for revenge. Take everything they stole, rebuild it better than before, and create an empire they could never touch. And it was delicious.